Hey guys, this is Caleb with DSLR Video Shooter, where it's all about making better videos, and today we're going to take a look at the setup I use for shooting B-roll. B-roll is a big part of videos, so essentially getting shots that you use over voiceover or talking head stuff like this. This space I'm in, I mainly use for talking head things, so the intro and conclusion of my videos, or anything where I need to lengthfully talk to you. Long speaking sessions, if you will. But shooting B-roll is really another animal, so we're going to take a look at how I do that here in a second. A couple things to mention before we jump in. This setup is mainly using microphone arms. Now I'm going to be talking about a Rode microphone arm, but there are other ones that are more affordable out there. They're just shorter, don't have as much reach, and other things like that. So that's one thing. Secondly, check the description for links to all the parts we'll be mentioning. Without further ado, let's head over to the bench, jump right in. This is my workbench. If I'm not shooting in my main studio space, I'm almost always right here shooting something. This is also where I shoot the majority of B-roll that you see in my videos. And we're going to be talking about what's going on over here on the right side of the desk. Over the past several months, I've been using a new system for overhead shots and other B-roll shots. And this system is based on the Rode PSA-1 microphone arm system. So here you see me setting up the light as well as the camera. And the beauty of this system is that you can really have an infinite number of combinations when it comes to camera angles and the light position. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways I use this system. Then we're going to talk about the parts I used, how I set it up, and how the lights as well as the camera are powered. First, I'm going to turn off the house lights and turn on the flex light, which is the light that I use on the one stand. So first, let's talk about getting an overhead shot. Here you can see me moving the camera in, putting a lens in the shot, and setting my focus. I have the light on a dimmer, which we'll talk about here in a second, and it really is nice to be able to dial in the brightness. Because I have a dimmer and the light is so bright, I have two options when it comes to my aperture. I can shoot wide open, which on this lens on my GH4 is f1.5, and get some nice shallow depth of field there. Or I can turn the brightness all the way up on the lights and stop down the camera to a much higher f-stop, which will give me a deeper depth of field. So if I want more in focus, or I'm going to be moving the object and I don't want to keep dealing with focus changes, this is a great option. I think I was at f10 or higher on this. So there's a quick before and after, and using that super bright flex light gives me a lot of flexibility, no pun intended. I can also grab the camera and just move it up, as well as moving the light up. This will give me a really nice wide shot. I'm going to be talking about the tripod head I have mounted to the camera, which in turn is mounted to the stand. It allows for easy adjustment of the pan and tilt and framing up shots. But the beauty of using this mat, which you see here, is that I can just move the mat and line things up instead of having to fiddle with the tripod head. Here you can also see there's several different ways I can light this, and it's really easy to make light angle changes with the flex mounted to that mic arm. The other great thing with this setup is I can easily change the background or tabletop texture or color if I need to. One option is just simply removing the mat and using the bare wood tabletop. If you don't like your tabletop, you can use something like a cutting board and get a completely different look, bring the light in closer, and this is a great budget option. I use this bamboo cutting board for a long time for a lot of my older videos. Or if you're more of a fan of white or gray or even black, just throw some foam core in there. And again, you'll have a completely different look. I like to keep a couple different old beat up, scratched pieces of foam core for backgrounds such as this. The other beautiful thing about this system is you don't have to use it in a tabletop configuration. So you can see me here moving things around and getting a completely different look and angle by just moving the camera and the lights. Making an angle change like that on my old setup or by using a tripod would be a real pain to move the camera, add a battery instead of the power solution we'll be looking at here in a second, and would take a long time. But by having the camera and the light mounted on these mic arms, I can just grab it, move it to the position I want, reposition the tripod head, and I'm ready to shoot. And once again, we can move the light to create different lighting effects if we want more of a front-on lighting or more of a backlit setup. This probably looks familiar to those of you who watch a lot of my videos, as I've used it a lot for my guides and other reviews. For the background, I just threw in an old beat-up piece of foam core. So those are a couple different setups and how I use this system for shooting B-roll for all of my videos. Now let's talk about some specific parts and setup. For the base of the monitor arm, we have three options. The first option comes with the arm itself. This arm base is designed to go inside of your desk. So the idea is you would drill a larger hole, Drop this base plate in and then tighten it from the bottom. This base is made of metal and is pretty solid. The only thing I don't like is there seems to be a lot of play because there's a nylon inner ring there. And you're going to have to drill a big hole through your desk to use it. So it's not my favorite option. The next base option is also from Rode, and it also is included with the arms when you purchase them. These simply clamp onto the edge of your desk and they're really solid, so I'm a big fan of these. The downside is when you remove the arm, you're still left with this big knob unless you untighten it and move it every single time. The third option is from a different brand named Heel. This arm base is compatible with the Rode arm, and what I like about it is you can screw it to almost anything. There's 3 countersunk holes and it comes with the screws. It also has a locking pin if you want to lock down the stand. The beauty with this option is it is super heavy duty and you could screw it to the wall or the front of your desk if it's thick enough. My workbench is made out of plywood and 2x4s, so this was a great option to mount to the front of my table. The other thing I like is when you remove the stand, it has a very low profile and it doesn't take up a lot of space. Now let's talk about rigging up the camera and the light as well as how I powered them. Let's start with the camera. On the end of the microphone arm, there's a 3/8 bolt with a large tightening nut. The way I mounted things was tightening down that nut, then I added this ball tripod mount from Oben. This one's really nice, but really any ball head would work. Next, I just mount the camera, and then I have a dummy battery that I kind of hacked together from an old battery system. You can pick these up online, and they're pretty cheap. From there, I can power up the camera, and we're good to go. One of the things I love about the GH4 is the flip-out screen, so I don't have to add a monitor to this setup or use any kind of tablet to monitor the actual camera. For this setup, I keep a really cheap Panasonic 14mm on the camera at all times, which obviously has autofocus. Now let's talk about how I set up the light. I'm using the Flexlight 10x10, which has an inline dimmer. The power cord is really long, so I left the transformer brick on the desk, ran the cable to the base of the arm, and then I used the Velcro straps that came with the arm to hold the dimmer in place. This makes it really easy to quickly make changes on the fly. From there, I Velcroed the cable up on the arm to the light itself. Mounting the light is somewhat similar to the camera. I loosened that 3/8 nut all the way, and then I used a female 3/8 to female 1/4 inch short adapter spigot. I bought mine from B&H for $3.40. With that piece mounted, you can add anything with a 1/4 20 thread. For my setup, I decided to add this small rig cold shoe mount. It's really well made and it's pretty affordable. And then from there I can add the light, which I've just added a ball head on. So both the camera system and the light system are mounted to those Heel bases that we talked about earlier. When I'm done shooting, I unplug the camera and move the camera arm over to one of those Rode desk clamps. I do the same thing for the light, except I can leave it plugged in since it's near its Rode clamp. With both of those out of the way, I have the desk open for working on different projects if the camera and light are in the way. So that's the setup I use for B-roll. Couple things I want to talk about. A bunch of you are going to be wondering, where's the audio? I used to use another boom arm and I would have a shotgun microphone at the end of that. That just got a little too crazy with all these different microphone arms. So what I've been using is a wireless lav or a microphone that's just clamped to the edge of the desk. But even those setups I don't use as much anymore because I do a lot of voiceover now. So what you heard was all voiceover. So that's me recording audio at my computer. Otherwise, I'll do stuff in here, and I've got a great acoustic setup with a decent microphone that I use in this space. And then I'll just do my audio over here. So rarely anymore do I sit at the desk and talk into a microphone while doing something live. I find it's a lot easier just to shoot the B-roll, have voiceover, which is a little more critical later. Another thing I want to mention is right in the middle of making this video that you're watching right now, my buddy Caleb from DIY Video Guy did a very similar video with a very similar setup. So it's funny how different people come up with the same idea. So I'll have a link in the description to his video. He has things slightly different, so if you're interested in this subject, definitely check out his video as well. So that pretty much does it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to see more videos here at DSLR Video Shooter. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.